All right, we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll see if anybody else pops in. I know Teresa is in Vegas with her parents, so she's busy. I think probably doing a luau. I think is what she said. Um, but today we're going to be starting chapter 3, which is Karma Yoga. And just so you know, Romy, the Bhagavad Gita that I gave you is actually the same version and translation that we are reading. So if you have that, that's perfect. We're going to try to get through. I got a lot. As I was putting this together, I ended up going chapter 3, verse 1 through 19. There's a lot packed into there, but like I couldn't find a good stopping point because it just is a lot of meat and potatoes there in that section. And so I didn't want to skip over anything and go over this. So I'll try to stay within our hour time frame. But the theme of this section in Karma Yoga is if knowledge is higher than action, why should we act at all? Because that's really what we were talking about before with chapter 1 and chapter 2, that everything in this lesson, it literally flows from Arjuna's confusion. And it gets deep, like I said, and there's a lot, so I'll really try to keep it within. And thank you all for coming. I truly appreciate you all for signing in. It means a lot to me. Last session, as you know, we had HG Pandit Srivasa Das. He really broke down and kind of hit the major themes of chapters 1 and 2. It's really cool to hear his version of them and how he really broke those down. It was really interesting to me, and answered some wonderful questions and had a lot of insight, and I really appreciated his time. But again, of course, we're going to pick up tonight where it starts off, or where we ended, which is chapter 3. Just a brief recap. Chapter 1, of course, Arjuna has his crisis. He's got confusion going on. He doesn't want to fight. He's got compassion mixed with attachment for everybody that's on the battlefield. And in chapter 2, Krishna starts revealing to him that you are not the body, that you are to perform your duties, and don't be attached to the results, and develop steady wisdom. And we really start chapter 3 here with, but if enlightenment comes through wisdom, then why does Krishna tell Arjuna to fight? And then, of course, that's exactly where we begin in chapter 2. So the big question is, if spiritual life is about transcendence, then why not simply stop acting? Why not throw in the towel? And that's one of the real important questions of the Gita that I think a lot of people come to the realization of, especially once they get done with chapter 2. It's like, so if nothing matters, then why even try? So we're going to really dive into that here in chapter 3 and kind of learn about that. So we're going to read chapter 3, text 1 and 2, and then we'll dig into it here. So text 1. Arjuna said, "O Janardana, O Kasava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work?" 2. My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. So he's struggling here because Arjuna's trying to figure out. He's saying, just tell me, just tell me. But the deeper question is, what kind of consciousness are we acting from? And that's what Krishna is really trying to get out of him. And Arjuna isn't arguing here. He's genuinely confused. He's genuinely trying to figure out, because he's hearing knowledge is best, okay, but fight. And he's like, so what is it? Which one is it? Arjuna is hearing that knowledge is higher than selfish action, and he mistakenly is concluding that anything that you consider action is lower, which is not true. Liberation or bondage is not determined by one's activities, but by one's consciousness in performing those activities. So we kind of touched on that last time we were ending chapter 2, and that's how renunciation is not actually giving up action, but it's giving up attachment to the results of the action. And that's kind of It's kind of like I said, it's a deep topic and it's kind of hard to digest because it sounds kind of counterintuitive. But liberation and bondage isn't determined by your activities, but by your consciousness, and that's why renouncing everything isn't giving up anything, but you're just giving up the attachment to those results. Um, I mean, just thinking about it, I'm sure some of you have probably received advice that was contradictory. You know, you hear people that are like, you need to work harder, or hey, slow down, or you should be ambitious, or be content, or let's keep going, or let's go and keep trying. And, there's a lot of contradictory advice that we can hear out there because sometimes wisdom isn't choosing one over the other. It's understanding how they fit together and not because not everything's really cut and dry. That's why we um, talk about self-reflection. That's why we talk about focusing on how our state of mind and our consciousness. Let's read. We're going to read 3 through 9 here. So, text 3. The Supreme Personality Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior. Perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in the way you will always remain free from bondage. All right. So there's two paths there. Krishna is explaining that there are two primary disciplines. There's knowledge and then there's action. But nobody can avoid action. It's impossible. I mean, even sitting still, that's an action. Refusing responsibility, that's an action. Even maintaining our bodily maintenance, like breathing, eating, thinking, moving, choosing, responding, all of those things are reactions. It's literally impossible to do nothing. I mean, it's kind of like imagine someone saying that I'm tired of politics or I refuse to vote and I don't want to participate in that. That unfortunately is still participating. You're still doing nothing, but you are still doing something. You're still actively not voting or not engaging because life doesn't allow neutrality. Inaction is still action and it's actually very unnatural for us. So think about this. So if you got a boat in a river, you can row, of course, or you can refuse to row. You can just sit there, but you're still going to be moving. There's no way to stop the current. It's going to continually take you somewhere. So you can either let it take you where it's going or you can guide it and make sure you're on the right path. That's kind of one way to look at it. The main point is the opposite of selfish action isn't inactivity, but it's purified action. Spirituality is not merely changing appearances while preserving the same desires underneath. So again we have to self-reflect and look inside and not let things impact us. We can't have a reaction. We need to be detached. All right, like I said, I'm going to keep trucking here because trying to get through trying to get through a good chunk here. I'm going to read 10 through 16 now. So text 10. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy for this yajña," or sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajña, or sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. 13. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Otherwise, others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajña, and yajña is born of prescribed duties. Regulated activities, as described in the Vedas and the Vedas, are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice, thus established in the Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. So, talked a lot about sacrifice, or yajña, which is the word in there in Sanskrit that means sacrifice. And the principle of sacrifice is literally coded into the universe to help us evolve. And I know a lot of times this section may be confusing to people because people hear yajña or sacrifice, and we need to break it down because especially when you're reading, I guess, like religious text or anything like that, you hear sacrifice, and the next thing you know, you're thinking you're like burning a goat, or like, sacrificing a human, or something along those lines. But originally, essentially, it means a sacred sacrifice. Now, of course, they did do those things back then, but in modern terms, it's obviously a little bit different. We're not doing that but offering a sacrifice is part of our human nature. An offering is part of our human nature. And it's not, like I said, it's not just merely a ancient religious ritual. It's a common, if you think about it, common sacrifices that we do all the time literally look like spending time with family. We spend our time with an employer. I sacrificed my time and went to work today. Didn't want to, but guess what? I have to. Money paid through taxes. Unfortunately, we're sacrificing that. Giving energy to a good cause. You're sacrificing your time to help something you believe in. Attaining comfort for a goal. There's multiple things that we can look at how sacrifice actually plays out and is current. The question isn't really, will I sacrifice something? That's not really a question. But what am I actually sacrificing my time, energy, and mental capacity and everything for, and to whom am I offering the results of everything I potentially may get back? Krishna doesn't need possessions. He doesn't need any of that stuff. The act of offering is meant to free us from possessiveness, and to reconnect with him. Spiritualizing every part of life, like, is yajña. It's an offering to God, and Krishna kind of expands on it there and says that life itself should become an offering. So that's kind of what he's talking about, because it mentioned offering food, that we call that prasadam. That's food that's offered to God. Um, and it's just a mindset of thankfulness. I offer this to you. And one thing, this is kind of a sidebar. I didn't even have this in my notes, but it got me thinking. And Drew was actually at this meeting with me with a bunch of Nepali people, and I never really like learned how. Like, of course, they're Saraswati, which is the demigod of like learning and knowledge, and the way that the Nepali people look at just books, like they don't want their foot to touch a book. They respect every book. They don't want to, because everything, like even if it's a book you don't agree with, it's still offering knowledge. And it's, to me, that was like, man, that's like, to me that kind of changed me, because a lot of time, I mean, I'm respectful with my books. I mean, I tell my kids not to step on the book, or like, dude, don't kick that book, like pick it up, like I had to pay for that. But it's usually about the mentality of I had to pay for that, or like that costs money. But if you think about it in the terms of like these things offer knowledge, like this book, like this is awesome, this is really cool. And but I think it's good to get in that mentality of thankfulness, of looking at it. And because through offering, just even ordinary actions become karma yoga. And like I said, food becomes prasadam because we've offered it to God. Intellectual life becomes jnana yoga. Work becomes service. Relationships become opportunities for devotion. Actions stop revolving around I and mine. And yajña actually acknowledges that life is received rather than being self-centered, which is I mean, it's a lot to take in, but when you start to kind of correct your mind and start looking at things, or just even taking a second to look at those things, it's a real mind changing, and it's really it. We stop receiving things while imagining, that nothing is owed, because that's really exploitive to think like, these things were provided. Like, I feel like God provided me a good job, to be able to help my family and stuff. And if I'm not thankful for that, that's just like exploiting God for what He's given me, is the way that it's kind of, not being thankful for the things that have been given to me. And like I said, I mentioned prasadam. I think that's, what is that? Like, it's food that's literally been offered to God. And that's even before you taste it, really, is how you're supposed to do it. If you offer it to God before you taste it and then partake in it, it's food made with gratitude, with devotion, with love. And it's receiving it as mercy rather than just, this is my private property, I bought this food, because bhakti doesn't require escaping ordinary life, but transforming it into something spiritual, which is really, really cool. Because if you change, like, let me think about it this way, like, what changes if your work really becomes worship? If you think about it that way, then your parenting becomes different, your teaching becomes different. I don't necessarily hate my factory job anymore because I'm doing it as a service. I'm not, it's like, oh God, I got to go there again. If I change my mindset, music, cooking, cleaning, serving, any of those things that I offer up to Krishna, it changes your mindset to be thankful for those things, that those things are become worshipped and they have intention behind them. And so if you ask yourself, when you're doing those things, is this activity itself, is it binds us, or is it the consciousness, or what is the consciousness and purpose behind it? And I think that's a good practice to have, to constantly be looking in and saying, how can I serve people? Like, I don't need to get mad at this person that literally they're slacking and my boss keeps giving me more work because this guy doesn't want to do his job. Like, they should be thankful for that, because is that annoying? Yeah, it's annoying, but you know what, I'm thankful that they trust me with the work. I'm thankful that they've allowed me to take care of something that I guess somebody else didn't want to take care of. And all that stuff comes out in the wash anyway. But um I think that, a good example of that would even be, if you got two people working at a coffee shop and they're both washing the dishes, and one guy's like, I hate this. My hands are always wrinkled. They're always in the water. This is ridiculous. I can't believe this. And the other guy's like, cleaning them and is just so happy. He's like, I love serving the people in this community. I love giving them coffee. I love being able to connect with my community in this one-on-one interaction. If they're doing the same thing, it's the same action, but the mindsets are totally different and the consciousness is totally different because literally we all breathe in air that we didn't create. We didn't manufacture it. We eat food daily that we didn't grow, that we didn't create from nothing. We use bodies we didn't design. We literally rely on countless people every day that we've never even met. And yajña or sacrifice begins with recognizing that none of us and none of this stuff is self-made. And I mean, if you really start to think about that, just some meal you make tonight or tomorrow or something, you think about all the ingredients that are in it. It's like somebody picked this spinach, somebody cut this bread to make a crouton, like this is crazy, I mean, it's kind of, you can go down a rabbit hole, but it's good to think about that stuff. And it's just being thankful for the people that interacted with what has been given you. And I think this fits beautifully with something we've been emphasizing while I've been meeting is that reality doesn't first change through changing circumstances, that reality changes through consciousness, and that the same activity can either bind us or liberate us. And just to be clear, Krishna isn't condemning, of course, ordinary pleasure. That's not what he's saying. He's challenging us with a life whose entire purpose is literally in this world is to acquire, consume, enjoy, and repeat. That's literally the world we live in, and we're trying to break that cycle. That's really what he's breaking down here. All right, let's knock out 17 through 19. I think I was trying to get to. Doing pretty good on time here, so that's good. All right, so let's see here. So 17. All right. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. And like I said, that's where I ended because that was kind of like an exclamation point there at the end, by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. Sacrifice offered without attachment is the path to the supreme, which is amazing. But Krishna is describing here the self-realized person. And this sometimes gets misunderstood because he isn't saying do whatever you want, he's not saying, yeah, once you become spiritual, nothing matters and you can just ignore everyone and, just go off by yourself or, that may not be your dharma. What he's saying is such a person is internally fulfilled. He's saying someone can no longer act from a deficiency. They don't act because they're empty. They act because they're whole at this point. They act without needing the action to manufacture an identity. That sacrifice offered without attachment is the path to the supreme. And it's, that's pretty awesome. So let's ponder this. So if we think about it, how much of our activities come from trying to fill an inner emptiness? I mean, you can just literally look out the world and just see all sorts of things, drugs, alcohol, gambling. I mean, you could go a list of everybody's vices that are out there, as things that they're trying to fill inner emptiness. And that's the things that potentially are illegal or can be. I mean, you also have stuff like recognition, somebody trying to acquire status, you've got money, you got people seeking validation, comfort, control. I mean, all of those things trying to fill an inner happiness. I mean, what would it look like if our actions flowed from a fullness instead? Because detached action does not mean careless action. It means doing the work properly and not claiming ultimate ownership and not making it personal. Rewards, the reasons for acting, and offering the work and results to Krishna. That is karma yoga, what we're diving into. And of course, me. I found this quote from Marcus Aurelius that was that kind of hit it on the head too. Is what is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. And duty isn't slavery. Duty is participating in reality. And I think this week, we can probably challenge ourselves to ask, before doing something, and just pause and kind of ask questions like, I'm talking to myself as much as anybody else because I need these challenges too, because it's a good to stay in this mindset. But, just pause as we go through these things and ask, all right, who am I doing this for? Is it for my ego? Is it for recognition? Is it for fear? Is it for love? Is it for a higher power? Is it for Krishna? I think that single question does a lot for us, because if you reflect and you're like, you know what, I'm going to go ride around on my motorcycle because I really want people to think I look cool, It's like, all right, you're kind of lame, buddy, but if you just want to go out and enjoy the weather, and just like be free of mind and, then go ride your motorcycle. And I'm literally talking to myself right now, by the way, because I've had that thought. I'm like, I should get the bike out. I look cool on it. So it's like, but it's like, well, you got to think about these things, and think about why we're doing these actions, and if you have that constant mindset, and I mean, it just gets your mind working into a state of thankfulness, and it really does change things, because that moment of self-reflection really is a game changer. And I mean, you can even just say something as simple as like, let me perform this responsibly, offer the efforts to you, and the outcome. Because when you do that out of a spirit of thankfulness and you just stop and observe the results, how your attitude, how you feel, that's, I've felt less frustration, and more active peace by doing that, and just by offering things to Krishna, to God, to whatever higher power you feel connected to, but just ultimately knowing that these things have been given to me and I'm thankful for them, and I offer them to you, and just releasing that ownership, because I think it's a good call. I think it's I enjoy it, and it's made a change in me for sure. So all right, let's open it up for a couple questions here. So one that I wrote down that was kind of see if we get some action here, some answers, is, do you guys think that can ordinary work become spiritual? And what do you think what makes the difference? Or do you think it makes a difference?
I would answer yes. You can make anything a spiritual task if you wanted. It's just the responsibility of the mind to assign that to yourself. But I think you could make small changes of actions in your own life or other people's lives in any craft you pursue.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, I think you touched on it. The work that you're doing, if you're performing that, as a sacrifice, that can make a difference there too. What I struggle with, and maybe this is because I'm in sales, is it talks about performing those actions without attachment for the results.
Yeah.
And that's basically all that I'm trying to coach my team to do all day, is to produce results. So that's something that I struggle with, because it's like, okay, well, if I'm doing this action, for the Lord, shouldn't I want good results to come from that? Or is it do you see where where like I'm confused here? Is it's telling us not to worry about the results, but if we're performing these actions for Krishna, then wouldn't we want those results to be good results?
Sure. But that's also, I guess, what your expectation of what the results should be, you know? So,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's one of those things, it's one of those difficult, God conversations of like, well, sales were down 25% this, and I offered all this to Krishna. What the hell, man? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why are sales 25% down if I'm literally offering everything? But we also, and I know it's easier to say, like, because I've been in those moments too, and I'm like, what's going on? What is going on? But hindsight's always 2020. But and I'll give you a good example is when I went through my last divorce, dude, it was a crap show. Like it was awful. I mean, awful. I mean, the lowest points of my life, and I'm just thinking, what is going on here? Like, and maybe I was even at that time, like I was meditating, but I wasn't really like, self-reflecting and offering things to God, like, but even in that moment, I don't know if I could do that. Like, what am I offering? This crap show, that I'm like living in. But again, had I been offering it and it still happened, like I don't know the bigger picture. I wouldn't pan out and see where I am currently and see that I'm way better than I was at that time, that I needed that to happen to be able to get my butt in gear and like start to focus more pinpointed on my spirituality, but I feel like those things can happen, and like we said, we can spiritualize ordinary things and see what we can learn from them. Now, that doesn't mean to disconnect and be like, well, they got this illness, so it's they got to learn something from it. That's not what that means. That's I mean, if I'm in those shoes and I've been diagnosed with something, of course I'm going to be bummed. I'm going to be sad, and I'm probably more sad for my family and my friends, like, but ultimately it is kind of like what am I trying to learn through this? I'm still dealing with the depression of being diagnosed with this, but I think the mindset is still, and I'm not even going to say thankfulness because I don't think that's right, but it's just a matter of what can I learn. I listened to I think like I listened to Sadhguru one time, and I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a really really awesome like speaker. Just fascinating. Just like he was really my gateway drug into bhakti because he's actually a Shivite, like he's a follower of Shiva, but he's man, that man, the way that man's brain works is just amazing. But he was talking one time, and it always stuck with me because he was talking about how you can learn something from everything. And he brought up the example of like a rock. He was like, what can you learn from a rock? And of course, people are like, well, I mean, I don't know, you don't want to get thrown, like everybody's like trying to think of something but he literally just made the example of, he's like, look, you can learn so much from this little rock because like, you know, a storm comes, it doesn't move it stays, it holds its own. The winds come, it may fall into the grass, into the weeds, but it still knows exactly where it stands. Somebody may come here and try to carve it. It's going to put up a fight, but eventually it may turn into something beautiful and be better than it was before. I mean, somebody may skip it and it may go on a trip across some water, and it didn't know that this whole other world existed over here across the water. He just like went on this deep rabbit hole of what can you learn from a rock and how can you grow from it and how can you apply it. And just even doing that is, I've challenged myself, not as much now as I used to, but like when I was really first starting to get into like spirituality, it was kind of one of those things of like I can learn something from everything, like how can I be more like a dog? Like, I mean, there's no stress back here. There's not many teeth either, but there's she's a little old. But it's like learn to relax once in a while, like learn to chill. I mean, there's literally stuff we can learn from everything as long as we self-reflect and just stop for a moment. But our microwave generation of just go go go, gotta have it now and stuff, a lot of times we don't stop to pause and reflect, and I think that's important. And even just like I said with ordinary work, like, all right, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this because I know Krishna would want this. So I'm going to go ahead and make some sales, man. We're going to get some people some stuff, and if it works out, great. If not, then I just know there's a better sale coming. He'll provide. I'm not worried about it. And if you detach from it, then and I think to your point, yeah, of course you want to offer the best. I want to offer the best work that I can, but if you're doing your best, then that's all you can do. So, but yeah, that is a tough question though, Drew, because it's like a catch-22. Anything else on that? Thoughts? All right, I got another question then. Was somebody say something? Sorry. Good. Okay. All right. So, how do you think attachment changes the quality of our work?
It's another thing on that same note that I kind of struggle with.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of the same thing. You know, I think it depends on what I guess it depends on what you're attached to. If you're attached to that result just benefiting you, maybe that's not the way to go about it.
Yeah. Any thoughts there, Aaron? Any thoughts?
Can you ask that question one more time?
Yeah. How does attachment change the quality of our work?
You're having expectations, which are the root of all heartache, and so many things are out of your control. So it changes the quality of your work for sacrificing to things that maybe don't benefit you or don't benefit the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I think that struggle is the attachment there. You kind of you want to produce good results, and at the same time you mentally you kind of feel like you have to be attached to care about it. I think that's something that I struggle with is we're trying to not be. I'm trying.
Oh, we lost your audio, Drew. Did he go?
Oh, he gone.
Oh, he gone. I just I just love that he's frozen there. Is he frozen on your screen? Hey, there he is.
Hey.
We can't hear you though. I can't hear you. I can't hear you if you're talking, Drew. Can you hear me? Oh, there you are.
I can hear you all now. It froze up for a few seconds.
Yeah. Sorry, we missed what you said.
Oh no. No, I think the struggle is if you are trying to not be attached or to be unattached to the results. It's that struggle is like, well, I just don't care. Yeah. And trying to balance, okay, well, I need to not be attached to the results, but I also still need to perform at a certain level, and just trying to find that balance, I guess, between those two things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely easier said than done, that's for sure, But to, Aaron's point, it's one of the that's always what I've been taught and learned is that attachment leads to disappointment, and that's, if your attachment or even, not even that fear of the future, you're constantly anxious or worried about what's going to happen, that tends to leave fear in places because you start worrying about those things, and you're attached to, because if I don't do good and I'm attached to, oh man, I gotta hit the sales goal, you know what I mean? And it's good to, that's the thing, like you said, you want to do your best. You want to do what you need to do for work. You want to meet, because I've got the same thing. I've got KPIs and targets that I've got to hit at work, every month. And we have to hit these certain numbers. And if we don't, then guess what? I get another presentation I get to do, or something like that. But the thing is, I think it's one of those things where it's like, all right, I'm going to do my best, and whatever happens, happens. And I do what I think is the best. Some things don't work out. We have the meeting. Why didn't you meet your targets? Well, these things came up here, and I just give them the truth and what happened. They say, well, that's not good enough. When's your updated target because you missed your target? All right, well, I'll get it done this month. We're going to put more manpower on it and be able to knock this down. All right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I'm not attached to the result. I have a target that I have to hit, but it's kind of the whatever happens, happens. I don't want it to cloud my mind so much that I'm like, oh my God, they just told me this. I've got 30 days. What am I going to do? It's like, all right, let's do this. Offer this up. We're going to handle this. If any time do I need your intelligence now, God, is to not get fired, like, it's like, what I mean? So it's like offering it up and just like, let's see what happens. And, and even in that scenario, it's like, well, how can I self-reflect and look back? All right, so we didn't meet our target. All right, well, what happened? Maybe I wasn't a good leader. Maybe I take some ownership in that and I didn't tell my people good enough to get them motivated and hype them up. And, maybe I didn't give them good direction and take ownership in what I can. If it's one of my team members, then, hey man, let's have a talk. Like, is there anything I can do to support you to maybe make sure, you're a little bit better next month? So, but that's still not being attached to the results. That's just doing your duty, And I think ultimately that's what Krishna is going to talk about too, is he still has to do his duty. You just can't be attached to any of this stuff.
Yeah. Not. Don't worry about the result, but I guess you still need to worry about
the
actual performance of what you're supposed to be doing. You need to worry about the work, not the end result.
Yeah, because and I think it goes back to the present moment.
Tough. It's tough. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just living in the present moment. That's really kind of what it boils down to. So, which, So anyway, yeah, I guess closing thought. Chapter 2 was really teaching us about who we are. Chapter 3, of course, begins teaching us how to live as that type of person, because spiritual life isn't an escape just from the world. That's not what it's about. Krishna is teaching Arjuna how to transform these transform his ordinary life into sacred service. And every chapter in the Bhagavad Gita teaches, or answers, I guess I should say, a different human question. And of course, for chapter 3, it's basically, if enlightenment is the goal, why should I keep acting? What's the point? And so we'll get more into that, as we go on and dive into it. But that's really the gist of 1 through 19 there. So, any questions or anything? Comments? They can be on topic, off topic. Doesn't matter.
And maybe the only thing I was going to say, just to summarize, I guess today's session for myself, sounds like you're saying, because your first question and second question tie into each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we do live in a modern capitalist society that wants results, which means you can't live in the now. You have to live in the future where the results exist, which takes you out of the now. But if you step into now and devote your service to the greater good of self and others, detach yourself from the results and expectations, you may end up meeting them anyway. Sounds like you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's, because if anybody knows, I do, because Toyota plans years. They already know what they're building, like the next model they're building. We haven't heard anything on the floor, but they got a 10-year plan. And every year we get together and they got a 5-year plan. They got the 1-year plan, and then we have the month-to-month plan. We're just always planning. That's literally all Toyota does is plan, because that's the Japanese way. We just plan everything. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's good to plan, and it's good to, I mean, like this past weekend, I went to California. If I didn't plan the trip, do you think I'd be on the trip? I'd probably, oh, I guess I'll get it tomorrow. And then I'm like dropping $1,000 instead of getting it ahead of time. Like, that's not being a good steward of your time or money, or even really, I don't think that's a good offering, of not being smart with my finances. So there has to be some planning involved and some thought involved. But again, to your point, I'm not I'm not worried about the results. I'm going out there to play a show. I don't know if the show's going to be good, but you know what? That's fine. I don't care. I got to go and hang out with some of my friends and went to a cool like record store skate shop and had fun and came back. I was safe. I didn't the plane, no issues on the plane. It all worked out. You know what I mean? So it's like just trying to change the mindset of, like we said, worrying about, oh my God, is this I heard I heard something. Is that the plane's engine? Like is that like, are we gonna get there? Are we not gonna get there? Like, am I just gonna be a worry wart on the plane the whole time? I can't control any of that stuff. All I can do is control me and my mind, and so I just sit there and just listen to some music and not try to control the results. But again, easier said than done. I mean, it to me, for me personally, what one of the things that I have to do is because, and I think we've talked to, I think at least I've spoken to you, Aaron, about this before, but I used to be a really, really bad overthinker. And I mean, to like, my anxiety would get so bad, my hand would be shaking and I didn't know what to do. And I mean, I was just like, next thing I know, in my brain, somebody is like out to get me. And like, I'm like, I need to have a firearm. I need to be like, like I was just like, anxiety just like overtook me. And I had to physically, verbally say to myself, dude, is any of this real? Like, look out your window. Is there anybody there? No. Okay. So and so's not coming to get you. Like, so why are you worried about it? Like, I don't know, man. Like, and I'm sure, like, if there was a camera in the house, I'd be like, nut job, because I'm over there just like talking to myself. But I needed that. I literally had to tell myself, dude, shut up. Like, you are getting worked up and getting anxiety for nothing. And I mean, like I said, it helped me to be able to be like, dude, just stop. Stop your brain for a minute. Take a couple deep breaths, release it, and think straight. Is any of this real? No. Okay. Then chill out, dude. Go get a drink of water and chill. So I think a lot of times we have to really like get onto ourselves and like recorrect our direction, in our mind, because we get that monkey mind that once that thing starts jumping around, sometimes it's tough, you know. Because
Have you found that the Gita has helped you get into the present moment more?
the Gita teachings within the Gita, as well as mantra meditation, which mantra meditation is it's like the easiest thing, but it's also the most difficult thing because you're sitting there and you have beads and you're chanting, and you just want to be like, all right, so what time is it? What do I got to do after this? Like it forces you to, like, even if I just sit down and just do one round, which is 108, but if I just do one round and just sit there and just try to focus and just do a round, and then it's just like it literally forces like the world to just, you feel like you're there for an hour, and it's only been like 7 minutes, and it's like it's insane because you do it and you're just like, I'm gonna be late, I'm gonna like I gotta like where do you gotta go? Like I know I gotta go to work in the morning, and I normally try to do it in the morning, but it's like, dude, you literally have 45 minutes before you have to go. You know this only takes 7 minutes to do one round. Why are you like keep looking at your clock? Just calm down and sit here. Take a deep breath and just enjoy the pause in life. But it's really difficult. But the mantra meditation, because it forces you to slow down. Also, sometimes I'll walk through the neighborhood and chant like through the neighborhood, and just being in nature, that helps me too, because then I'm like, I feel like my senses are heightened because it's like I can hear the birds because I'm so focused on, like, I guess other living entities that are around me when I'm doing that. It's just because it's mantra meditation, especially when you do like the Maha mantra, like it's literally you're just saying the names of God, the names of the divine, and you're just connecting with him, you know? So it's like you're just chanting it and you're just walking around and it's just like, this is awesome, you know? Like this tree's alive, you know, this bird I hear is alive, this grass, you know, this is awesome. Like I'm just around all this life and we take it for granted a lot of times just driving down the street, you know? So it's just, yeah, I think, and like I said, mantra meditation is a big one. It helps because, like I said, it forces you to slow down and stop.
Can you send me information on that? I've not heard of that until we started having these meetings.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I mean you can do it with like some people have like bead bags, you know, bags, but I mean like you just have I mean it's literally 108 beads and I'm just counting through. Let me see if I can just like thumb through. You're not supposed to use your index finger if we're being technical because that they associate that with pride because you're normally like pointing and being prideful with it. So they never use their index finger. They just use the thumb and count through them. And just all you do is just Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Next one. It's just you go, and it's actually in. I think Srila Prabhupada put it in this version of the Gita. It might be in the front of it. I'll have to look. I give you a page number, but it's that is considered one round, and you can go as slow or as fast as you want, but it's just really about connecting. Let me see.
It's well, if you've heard the song "My Sweet Lord" by
Yeah,
George Harrison,
yeah. He says it in
that's
that.
the Maha Mantra.
Yeah, I always forget that that it's in there. Oh, here it is. It's on. You have the hardback, don't you? Page 2. So in Srila Prabhupada is discussing all these are all their like chants like for like spiritual masters. But the very last one is the Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And yeah, it should be right there for you. It's in italics. It's a page 2. I guess it's the introduction. Yeah, page 2. But yeah, but it's like I said, that's really helped me. You know, just taking the time to pause and chant, and you know, you don't even need to use beads. I mean, it's just kind of one of the things that I've gotten accustomed to. I've also have ended up buying they got these things on Amazon where you just press them and you just like they're little counters like that you just put on your finger, and I've just started using that sometimes at work. You know, if I'm just like sitting there at work, I'm like, all right, man. And then I almost have like a little fidget thing while I'm, you know, doing my Maha Mantra. But like I said, it helps me. I think it's definitely calming of the mind.
Some another thing some people do is they'll write they'll write those names down.
Oh yeah,
And I've seen even there are some people that just have like notebooks and they'll just write, you know, Ram or Rama
yeah,
or Krishna just over and over again, and that's kind of the same thing.
yeah,
Same thing, just a different method to do
yeah.
the same
That's
thing,
cool.
but it's sitting down and concentrating on something else and tuning out from all the
Yeah,
distractions.
yeah, that's really cool. And it's funny you say that because I never really thought about that, but it makes sense because that was one of the things that helped me with my anxiety was like journaling. You know, was writing
Mhm.
things down and getting them off my chest, and you know, I know the power of pen to paper. Like that's you know that's cool. That's good. I like that. Um, cool. Anybody else got any questions or anything? Comments?
I just want to hear about that trip, man. How'd it go?
Oh, it was good. Yeah, it was really cool. We played at this venue called it's a skate shop slash record store called Program. And oh man, dude, it's if you go to their website, everybody plays there. Like Newfound Glory plays there. when they come through town. And I mean, it is literally the size of like maybe my living room. It's so small. So whenever you got like 20 people in there, it's just packed and everybody's having fun and enjoying it. So it was really cool. I mean, we didn't really do anything but just play music and then went to the show and played more music and just hung out. So yeah, it was good just being with my buddies out there and kind of they're wanting me to be a permanent member of their band.
That's what I was
Yeah.
about to ask you.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I mean, I can, but I mean, they tour a lot more than Small Steps does, So, I mean, they go to Europe and everything.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And in fact, they're friends with, so Sparkle Life was around in the late 90s. Like, they were actually signed to a label that was run by the guy from Lagwagon.
Oh man.
And like they had big distribution and all this stuff and then ended up breaking up and decided to get back together a few years ago, but they have so many connections. I mean, they had Fred Armisen play drums on a song, you know the comedian,
Mm.
so it's just wild. So they have a lot of opportunities. So yeah, I'll probably play some more shows with them, but it's fun. It's all good. Yeah, he had a call at work. So was there any other questions or anything, or all good?
No, no,
I
yeah,
mean, it's a dense topic, right here at this. A lot of food right there in that section, those 19 verses.
yeah,
But
yeah. There's a lot in the purports too.
yeah,
Just I think it's like text 12 has one, and it's talking about the yajñas.
hmm,
And then that purport ends with talking about um, how doing kirtan
oh yeah,
is yajna,
yeah,
and is probably the easiest way to do that.
yeah,
But there's a whole bunch that I need to go through and process too, because it's talking about the all the different sacrifices and stuff it talks about in
hmm,
the Vedas and to the demigods
yeah,
and all that. So there's a lot to dive into with that also.
oh yeah, yeah. And that's the one thing that I know Kasori Das has always talked about is like, you can offer things to demigods and get things in return, but it's usually, again, it goes back to why am I doing this? Is it just for personal gain? Like, am I literally just trying to use a demigod so I can maybe pass this test? Or,
Yeah.
like it
Well,
seems
and
kind of
that's
exploitive.
yeah, that's kind and I've seen that too. So I almost every Tuesday we go to the temple here,
Hmm.
and they do Hanuman Chalisa there. And there's some days, usually in the winter, there's some days it's like three of us there, and then here lately over the summer, I mean, there's been 50 plus. And I think there's a lot of like family members that have come over to the U.S. To spend the summer. So I think that's been a big part of it too. But there's a lot of people that go, and I had no idea this was even one of the purposes of Hanuman Chalisa was to try and get that strength. You're
Hmm.
trying to get like a blessing of strength from
Yeah.
Hanuman. I didn't know that was what it was about. I thought we were there just doing that because you're kind of celebrating Hanuman.
Yeah.
He's celebrating Ram.
Yeah.
He's kind of looked at as like the ultimate devotee.
Yeah.
And then that's how he gets all of his power is because he's so devoted. And so I'm just there to learn that and to I guess to worship Ram, and then I'm finding out these other people are there because it's like, oh no, I want my kids to grow up strong and this and that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh okay, well there's another part to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. That's for sure. But yeah, and that's like I said, I think it's, well, especially when you look at it the lens of like, man, every time. it's like, I don't know. It's just interesting to think about that mindset of like, am I just like, am I just asking for stuff? Just like, just detach and don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that in Christianity too.
Uh-huh.
You look at people that'll just the only time they pray is when they're praying to get something.
No, yeah.
And so it's kind of along the same lines. The only time you can see some people, the only time they go to the temple is when they're not feeling good and they want to get, the priest to bless them or something like that. And it's like, this would probably be more effective if you were if you were going for this other reason, the majority of the time, and maybe occasionally asking for some help instead of just only showing up when you need something.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to basically what we were talking about is just being, I'm offering this up to you. I don't need anything in return. I'm just offering this work up to you, and just it all work out. So, well, cool. Anyone else got anything else? Everybody good? All right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead.
Good to go.
Yeah. Tried pretty quick. It was only 4 minutes over 8. That's about when we got started. It was about 4 after. So, pretty good. But yeah, I appreciate y'all signing in so much. Good. Always good chatting with you.
Yep. No, thanks for having us. Thanks for running the class.
Yeah, of course. And we'll do it again in about a week, 2 weeks. Yeah. So every other Monday. So we'll see you all then. Thanks again for signing on. So
good deal. Good deal.
All right.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Romy.
Mhm.